This is Kanzenshuu, the podcast, episode 341 for the week of August 18th, 2013. What up, hey-os? Welcome to Kanzenshuu,
the podcast,
an extension of the all-encompassing Dragon Ball fan site.
Kanzenshuu.
That's right, we cover anything and everything Dragon Ball in hopes of enlightening and a little bit of entertaining. Sup, folks? My name is Mike Vegito EX, and joining me again after a little time off on his own, although that's time off the podcast, not time off working on the site, not by any stretch of the imagination. Mr. Julian, what up, coming from Japan?
That is correct. And it's 11 on a Sunday night, and my children are wide awake.
You described it to me as, my kids are very Genki right now.
Yes. So my wife is very annoyed because she wants to sleep.
Right.
But the baby is crawling around, and my daughter is talking to herself and singing little impromptu songs. And
you're like, peace out, I'm going to go record a podcast, see ya.
No, actually, I volunteered, but she said, shoot.
Shoot you out. Do you cause extra problems if you're around? Do they want to stay up more?
Well, she wants me to read to her for the umpteenth time.
Gotcha. All right. Well, you can entertain me instead of entertaining your kids now. That's your job.
Okay.
It's good to catch up with you, man. It's been a relatively slow 2 weeks here for Dragon Ball news, but there's been a lot of topic development for the podcast here. I kind of want to tease some future topic episodes right now before we talk about what this week's topic is going to be. I've been diving into research journals, and I wanted to read one particular article. Then I discovered that one journal had two great articles I wanted to read, but they are not available online for a cheap price. I actually work at a school, so I have journal access, but I didn't have access to this journal. So I just paid $10 to buy an academic journal from 1978 to cite on a future podcast episode about Broly.
Okay.
Let no one say we do not go to extreme lengths here on the show. Now, you're probably thinking, wait, 1978, Dragon Ball wasn't even a thing yet for another, 8 years? 6 years at that point, at least in manga form. 7 years. Julian, are you going to talk about Broly with me in the future?
I guess.
I'm roping you into this. I need someone to keep me sane here.
Suppose I have no choice.
You have no choice. So that's something you can look forward to. It's something that's always been on the back burner for me. And I'm like, I don't really want to talk about Broly. But I saw someone, I forget who, I'm sorry, recently mentioned it on the forum because there was, the umpteenth Broly thread. And it's like, hey, that'd be a great podcast topic. Hey, you're right. I've been meaning to do that for 10 years now. So we'll get to that soon. But Julian, this week, instead of talking about Broly, I do want to talk about something else that I forget how this came up. I'm just pulling things from the forum here recently. It's a great way to fill in some time as we lead up to larger research topics. And I don't know why I mentioned it, but I mentioned alt.fan.dragonball, the old Usenet news group that I used to be a part of. You were there for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, people probably don't remember how this got started. I want to talk a little bit of the early days of talking about Dragon Ball Online, almost pre-message boards, because, Kanzenshuu EX had a message board going long, far back, and people, of course, talk about the Planetomic message boards, which I had no familiarity with because I have my own. But there was a time before that, and there were some good memories there, and a lot of the foundation of Kanzenshuu today really took place there, believe it or not. So that's going to be our topic a little bit. So we'll talk about that. We got news, though, Julian. So before we start talking about ye olden days, I need you to talk about ye Newden days with me.
By that, you mean recently?
Yeah, I mean this week.
Oh, okay. It's been a pretty busy time for me in that, in spite of not having huge amounts of stuff to do at work, people find ways to rope me into other things, and
really
making slow progress on a number of things, and in particular a number of projects on the site, believe it or not.
So Julian, maybe this is news, but it's sort of content at the same time, and we're going to roll it into something that's coming probably in a couple of weeks' time. But could you tell me real briefly about Jump Live and what's been in there twice so far?
Yes, so Jump Live is this, I guess I could call it an experiment, is a sort of extra issue, if you will, of Weekly Shonen Jump, except it's updating with content, multiple things every day for the entire month of August. And there's some things that are free to read just by downloading the app, which is available on the Japanese version of the iTunes app store, and possibly from the Google Play as well. But anyway, so some stuff is also pay content. Every week so far this month on Monday, they have put up a chapter of Jaco the Galactic Patrolman, which is free to read, but also some bonus content from Akira Toriyama, which is sort of inside information about the series.
Right, and so far there have been 2, which you have translated. We have not posted because, like I said, it's going to be rolled into something else coming in the near future. Are there any quick little tidbits you want to pull out of there, though?
Well, just really quick, Akira Toriyama had been working on Jaco the Galactic Patrolman since over a year ago. He had intended to have it start running in Jump alongside the release of a certain other Toriyama-related thing earlier this year, but he tried to keep the same sort of schedule he had when he was younger, working every day on 2 hours of sleep, and kind of wrecked his health and had to take a break.
Well, we saw that happen with Oda recently as well. I mean, he talks about such an extreme sleep schedule. It's no surprise.
Yes.
Toriyama, a little bit older, same thing happened.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Eiichiro Oda is kind of an extreme case himself, but Oda's case, it's because he's very driven, where Toriyama's case, it's because it would take him that long to do everything. In particular, when he started with Dr. Slump, he did everything himself because he didn't know of any other way, and his assistant at the time, which I think is Hisashi Tanaka, before he switched to Matsuyama later in Dr. Slump, was talking about, he came over, but there wasn't much for him to do besides blacking in some of the areas that were inked.
Yeah. In addition to that, I saw Toriyama also comment that he's doing it all digitally, so that's slowing him down a little bit.
As well, and he's doing it all by himself. He hasn't used an assistant since, I think, the end of Dragon Ball. But as he gets older, he finds this is also, limiting in terms of his pace.
Yeah, it's tough.
But it's also interesting that he's changed the style a bit of the way he does things. Oh, my son is getting cranky in the other room. I should explain that my children are not yet asleep, so they may occasionally be hearing them. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. So he's actually been working closely with his editor, who appears now to be Kohei Onishi for this, who has worked on a number of other series for Jump, although I can't remember any off the top of my head. But he's been working with his editor. His editor's been sort of helping him refine the story, and Toriyama, in a rare step for him, has actually been doing separate storyboards and drafts.
Yeah.
And normally he just whip up the storyboard and then draft over top of it, but this time he's doing it very properly, like a good little boy, and as a result, it feels very clean. And you can see that he's put a lot of effort into the art, in spite of it being, by his own admission, not particularly action-packed.
Mm-hmm. Did I also see something about he's not too concerned with the dialogue? He's letting editorial kind of finish that up if he doesn't really care or like it?
I think in that particular case he means the lettering.
Oh, okay.
Since the lettering is taken care of by the editors rather than him.
Gotcha, okay.
When I went to the exhibit back in March, was it April? April. You could also see that with his original manuscripts.
That's right, yeah.
Everything was very cleanly inked except for the dialogue, which he'd sort of sketched out in pencil. And for the sake of the exhibit, they had sort of the actual dialogue pasted over top, but there were places where you could see the original penciled in dialogue as well.
Gotcha. Well, that's the thing. We'll have more coverage of the Jump Live additional supplemental material tied into our own supplemental content on the site.
Yes. Oh, and I should mention also that in addition to that, they have this feature called Mainichi Dragon Ball. So every day there's one chapter of the Dragon Ball manga, colorized version, put up to read for free. So far, they've covered the Goku versus Ma Junior fight and the Goku versus Frieza fight, and now they've skipped ahead again, and they're doing Super Saiyan 2 Gohan versus Perfect Cell.
Oh, that's interesting. Because
I think these are chapters that we've never seen them in color before, not even digitally.
That's right. Yeah. I don't think we have, because the latest print stuff in Japan, was this back in February? I don't even remember. It was a while ago.
Yeah, it was February and April.
Stuff.
Yeah. was Cyan arc and then the Frieza arc.
Yeah.
So we haven't had anything past that in print. And I think, I haven't checked recently, but I'm pretty sure they haven't gone digitally past volume 20 of the Tankobon yet. So it would be the first time that we've seen the Cell arc, any of the Cell arc in color.
Right. And there's still no print edition announced. And Viz is going chapter by chapter. They're still doing Goku versus Vegeta.
Yes.
Well, Julian, let's move on to other stuffage here. This is, again, it's tough writing about this because it's a new line of figures, but it's not actually a new line of figures. It's a new line of figures, but it's all old figures. This is the Dragon Ball Capsule R, now the Cyan arc.
Yes. How do I explain this exactly? So basically what you have is these little capsule figures that you basically buy them. Well, normally you'd buy them in like a little vending machine where you can sort of spin the thing and open it up and see what you get. There's other ways to buy them as well, sort of random packs, I think, usually.
Yeah.
But anyway, Mega House, it's basically taking older figures and scenes from the Cyan arc and putting them out. I don't know, it's really hard to explain, and I'm not all that well versed in it, so maybe you could explain it better than I could.
Like you were saying, little capsule figures, there's 7 of them, and each one comes with an additional piece to fit together a final piece in the end. So all 7 of these actually have names, but if you just want to go through it, it's Goku tearing off his Dogi, where he's about to go Kaioken. Goku has just used Kaioken on Nappa. We have Goku chasing bubbles. We have Vegeta just standing there. We have Piccolo blocking Nappa's blast from Gohan. We have, is that Goku grabbing? No, it's Raditz elbowing Goku and Piccolo in the kind of head there. And then we have Gohan eating apples. Now, Julian, there was one particular name in Japanese. You're like, grammatically, this makes no sense. Which one was that?
So, Osorubeshi Raditz.
Okay.
So it makes sense if they are 2 different sentences. Osorubeshi Raditz.
Gotcha.
He is fearsome, Raditz. But really it should be Osorubeki Raditz, the fearsome Raditz. And I don't know, it's older, archaic Japanese, and it's probably why it's not completely right. But
okay.
It annoys me.
Gotcha. Anyway, you piece all the extra pieces together, and you get that great shot of Goku with the Halo and the angel wings and Kaio in the background. The iconic shot there. So these are coming in late 2013. Is there an exact date? I don't remember. CD Japan's wrap-up date is actually the day the podcast comes out, August 19th. Toei's shop, they say their reservation ending date is October 20th, or while supplies last. So it's going to come out probably November onward.
Yes. So that's a little fun little thing to be looking forward to if you're into the figures.
Yeah, and you can buy, pre-order at this point, boxes of figures. But again, they're secrets. You don't know what's going to be in there, so you might get doubles. All right, so let's move on. Next story here. Namco Bandai Q1 fiscal 2014 figures. Not an exciting quarter. Namco Bandai themselves posting a $99 million net income. That's about 9.5 billion yen first quarter this year. Dragon Ball is not on the best performing franchises overall, and it has not been there in about half a year. So we don't get too much of a very good specific breakdown on the overall franchise performance, but it was there for general toys and hobby merchandise. This is the non-video game stuff. It did jump in net sales from 1 billion last year, that first quarter, to 1.5 billion this quarter this year. It's forecasting the same 4.0 billion yen for the year, which would actually be a drop from 4.8 that it did last year. So it's a combination of holding steady, maybe a little bit of a drop, but it's also a kind of a dry period for Dragon Ball in Japan in terms of merchandise right now.
And it's kind of a shame. There are obviously the video games coming up, and I do have information to share about them, except the issues of V-Jump and Weekly Jump that have them in them are currently at work, and I'm not. Right. So,
well, we can at least cover one of those stories real quickly because there's nothing else to say about this. That's J-Stars. We have another 2 characters announced, and I mean the specifics of them are, well, they do the special move. So, Julian, who's been announced?
So, Gon Freaks from Hunter x Hunter and Yusuke Urameshi from Yu Yu Hakusho have been announced for Jump J-Stars Victory Versus, and they perform their special moves. I forget what it is for Gon, but for Yusuke, obviously, it's the Ray Gun.
Yep, not a whole lot to say about that right now. Real slow drips information on that. Also, real slow drips on Battle of Z. I didn't know it was kind of related to some other thing, but I think it was Namco Bandai Europe had Battle of Z as a tentative 2014 calendar year title. So I think we're not going to see... are we really not going to see any main console games this year? This is the way J-Stars is going. I don't see that coming out this year because it's so slow right now. And Battle of Z sounds like it's going to be next year. Battle of Z might come very, very late this year in Japan, and then maybe early next year internationally. But if we're getting anything, it's going to be late this year.
Yeah. I don't know what to say, really. I mean, when's it going to come out?
It's not like you're going to play it. I'm going to be the dumbass playing these games. So,
well, I mean, it's something to look forward to, I suppose.
It's the yearly cycle, looking forward to games. Whatevs. All right, Julian, let's wrap up news. They're really still trying to push these series all together as one, aren't they?
Pretty much. Okay, so we have new merchandise coming September 2013. And you're saying, yeah, there's lots of Dragon Ball merchandise, but this is Dragon Ball, One Piece, and Toriko together, just like the collaboration special thing they had back around the time that Battle of Gods came out. This special, of course, had Luffy and Goku and Toriko in this weird mishmash of the Tenkaichi Budokai and some sort of cooking thing. And, of course, the in-universe section of our forum gets into fierce debates about the relative strength of these characters now. But
this is out of universe. This is a tapestry, a microfiber mini towel, a microfiber sports towel, a pouch, and a tote bag.
There you go. Now, the one thing that I'm very intrigued about is the one at the very bottom that we have in our news post, where we have something that's very clearly based on that one image with Gohan, Trunks, and Goten firing off their guns in the car. Except this time we have Goku, character I don't know the name of, and Kame Sennin, plus a bunch of other people in the background, including Luffy and Kuririn and some other people.
Sanji with the gun?
You know, it's really hard to tell with this picture.
I think that's just Sanji.
I'll take your word for it.
But it's cool.
Yeah, and I don't know. I like the sort of mishmashes when they're done well.
Yeah.
I was kind of on the fence about the special. It was...
Oh, I know. We still never talked about that. I think what we'll have to do is hold off until a possible home release of it. And let's just cover this real quick. Julian, the way that Toriko started a couple of years ago, and there was the whole thing where it took Dragon Ball Kai's time slot, but it kind of kicked off with a collaboration special with One Piece.
Yes.
And then there was a year later, another anniversary kind of crossover special, those two. And then a year after that, which was this year, they brought Dragon Ball into the fold. Those two Toriko and One Piece specials, it took a while, but those finally did get a home DVD release. Nothing about this three-way crossover special yet, though.
Yeah, at least not yet. I saw that as a potential extra for the limited edition of Battle of Gods, but as far as we know, it's not going to be on there. As far as we know.
Yeah, I know. It's tough because it is the 3 series. So do you include it on maybe like the Film Z set as well as Battle of Gods? And then
there's a Toriko movie that just came out.
Right, that's got a movie coming out. So that could have worked. But really nothing now. The way that I phrase this update, I'm being very careful here. We don't know anything. We're just sort of projecting. If they're coming out with this merchandise, and based on the release time frame of this previous crossover, they actually called it the collaboration special Kanzenshuu for the 2 Toriko and One Piece specials. It seems like later this year could be a good time for it, especially around Battle of Gods, get everyone to just kind of buy everything. But we don't know. It just seems like it would be a good time.
Yeah, but we have no idea, really.
But we have no idea. So I think when it comes out on home release, because I'm sure it will at some point, we'll give it a proper coverage then. Julian, I only want to cover one other little piece of news. Even with you in Japan, if we tried to cover every little piece of Dragon Ball Heroes news, we would probably go insane. So we'd like to keep up with, this is the big Galaxy mission update. Okay, this is a new character character, Baby Janemba, some of the new Super Saiyan 3 transformations. This is a sorta new transformation. It's one of those, we don't really know what else to do, so let's just throw some more crap together. Well, Julian, Super 17 is now absorbing number 16.
Yes. So in the depths of the hell stage, Super 17 is waiting for you, and in Galaxy Mission 9, I should say. So in level 4 of the hell stage is defeat the Super 17s. So apparently there's more than one Super 17. And somehow it also absorbs number 16. And the resulting Super 17 is ridiculous.
I want to attempt to read something in Japanese, and you can tell me how well I did. All right, you ready for this?
Okay.
16号を吸収して、さらなる進化を遂げた姿に。
さらなる進化を遂げた姿に。
All right, I was okay. So what's that mean?
So it absorbs number 16 and
just kind of like the absorption goes further.
It becomes an even more evolved form, and the super powered up, complete or perfect physique has Katsumoku. Behold the super powered up perfect physique is basically what it says.
Dude, he looks ridiculous.
Yes.
What do you think, man?
It's hard not to laugh.
I was joking about this on Twitter. I would love to go back in time and show all this Heroes stuff to my 16-year-old self. And I think there would be one of two possible results from this time traveling. One, I would just be in total disbelief and I'd probably punch myself in the face. Mm-hmm. The other would be I would just spontaneously combust.
Yes. There's also the thing, I think it was late last month at the Saikyo V-Jump Festa that they revealed for, I think it was a later update for, was it Heroes? I can't remember anymore. There's basically adult GT-style Gotenks.
Oh, right. We saw that from Peking Duck on Twitter, but I have not seen a formal unveil anywhere else, so I'm kind of holding off on that for an independent confirmation.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably something that's in the pipeline.
I'm sure.
It's all about giving the fans a sneak peek of what's to come at those sort of events.
Yeah.
So I'm curious as to how that's going to go, and also what it's going to do to the fans who are obsessed with things like battle powers, because fusion. All right.
Speaking of my 16-year-old self, let us travel back in time.
It's funny that you should choose this topic this week, because on another forum I was just getting, well, not into an argument, but I was posting on a forum about specifically Jacko the Galactic Patrolman, and this other member comes out of the woodwork and says, well, I've never seen you before. Did you change your name or something? And I think, what? In this particular forum, I've been there since 2005.
Okay.
Maybe before that, because I'm pretty sure their forum crashed at one point. But, no, I've been here longer than you have. And, in fact, I was back on Usenet and got into a little bit of a discussion about Usenet with some of the older members. And this other member who was like, are you new? Was just sort of disappeared.
Okay. Well, people come and go, but my kid Julian will forever remain.
Yes, it was just very funny. But yeah, it got me thinking back a little bit on the olden days of alt.fan.dragonball. So I was amused that you decided to bring it up and good. Same wavelength.
So, I mean, Kanzenshuu is an institution at this point. The forum is a large part of our site and our community. It just kind of is, and is the current install of the forum dates back to 2004, and we had a couple versions before that.
Yes.
But there was an internet before established forums that ran properly, attached to websites with user accounts where you can do other things. Like, there was no commenting on news stories. There was no single sign-on to things. There was, well, I'm on AOL and I'm digging around and, oh, what's this over here? Julian, I discovered alt.fan.dragonball. I couldn't tell you how. It was probably just me digging around on AOL, like I said.
I think I did it the same way.
I'm new. I love this. I need to talk about it. I need an outlet. And so AOL actually had surprisingly, a rather robust newsreader that you could use that kept all the topics and was easy to use and post. So
yes.
Usenet, it's a decentralized message board. It's kind of the best way that I can describe it, where your ISP usually was in control of keeping track of, has someone posted a new message to this? Like, messages were almost individual posts that could be kept or not kept. And so you could sort of just tune in there and say, all right, give me all the new posts in this section over here. So things would be broken down to, all right, alt and then fan, and then it would be alt.fan. Not that Naruto was around or One Piece was around. But One Piece was pretty close, 1999, right?
Yeah.
So it'd be alt.fan.One Piece, alt.fan.Naruto. We had alt.fan.Dragonball, and that's where we all kind of gathered. And if you look back there, you'll see a lot of familiar faces if you hang out on Kanzenshuu these days. Some may have changed their names, but in a nutshell, Julian, we killed alt.fan.dragonball.
Yes, I mean, who did we have? We had Greg, we had Daimao, we had
Rachel, we had Tanuki.
who was a troll on alt.fan.dragonball.
He totally was. He was trolling Mary's site as well. I mean, some people grow up, some people don't. Joe is someone who grew up.
Okay.
And I'm sure we're forgetting some other people. Some of the early members, I know there was Mirai Matt, who early member as well. And there's a lot of other folks you could go back to be like, wow, yeah, they've been around for a long time. But we kind of brought them all over and in essence killed that news group. We apologize, but it was a really forming time is kind of the best way that I can describe it. If you look back on it now, how do you think about it? What comes to mind for you?
It's sort of this wild place where you had to sort of combat the spam for attention.
Yeah.
And
right, because it was totally decentralized, so there was no moderation. So spam bots could just post, and it was, well, deal with it.
Yep. Oh, hey, another flood of spam posts. How many pages do I have to click through before I get back to people discussing things? And, there were trolls and flame posts and, things that we tried to get away from on Daizenshu EX, which I think may have contributed to the death of the news group, more or less. And people got into personal spats and, went off in a huff, and people came and went, and there were times when people sort of ganged up on new members because they didn't know the etiquette.
Again, we were all 16. That's the thing. There were a couple older folks. There was Steve Simmons. He was almost the grandfather of the group at the time. But Wu Ken also posted there occasionally from Susinshu. I mean, a lot of those early Dragon Ball folks.
Yes.
I think Ed Corrigan mostly posted on rec.arts.anime. The
maybe
other one.
Was there Ryan Castor Troy or?
I don't think so. Correct me if I'm wrong though, dude. So maybe you were
remember.
There. Sorry,
I don't remember. It's a long. We're both trying to get through our fuzzy memories and everything sort of blends together after a while.
We had some older people, which was good because maybe that's what we are now, trying to keep everyone under control. But it was a lot of younger folks discovering Dragon Ball for the first time because Dragon Ball had recently come to North America. I would have joined, it was December 1997 when I got my first online computer, and Dragon Ball had been airing for a year at that point. So.
I didn't join until a few years later, maybe 2000, 2001.
So what's really interesting to me is to go back and see how many parallels there are between then and now. There was, at the time, a lot of, this is kind of the consensus of the entire community there, which I thought was really interesting. Yeah. The sole focus should be, and unless otherwise specified, is the original Japanese version of the franchise. And I saw that posted so many times where, I mean, especially 99, season 3 was coming. So all these quotes of, I heard so-and-so say this, like, well, not really. I just saw that come up over and over and over. It's like, wow, that's really interesting because that's kind of our mantra now.
Yes. So kind of funny. It's a lot of our ethos, I guess you could say, developed out of what was originally on that news group. And I know that over time there were more and more people who joined who were more into the English dub, simply because that was becoming a thing. Yeah. And certainly by the time that I joined, there was sort of almost not quite wars, but certainly fierce arguments between the two camps about not necessarily which was better, but what they should talk about and what's valid and what isn't, and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I think there was a push at some point to do a further subgroup that was like .dub or .english.
I think it was .us.
Oh, okay, that sounds right. Yeah.
I don't know how successful that was, but
who knows? We were gone by that point. We kind of ruined it. So, I mean, I don't know how much there is to actually say about it, just more describing it, but I do want to pull it back. I've been thinking a lot about this lately. I don't know if you remember the name Jim Stanfield.
Yeah, that was a pretty shocking thing right there.
It was. Jim was a young guy. I believe he was only 16 years old. And this morning I was going back and reading some of his posts, and it put me in a really down mood, but also in a really uplifting mood at the same time. So I'm like, if Jim was still here, he would be doing exactly what he was doing then, along with us at this point. Jim was, and I forget how we found out. I think it was maybe his sister finally got access to his account and posted something, but Jim was struck by a truck on the way to school one day, and he was in the hospital, I think, for at least another day before he sadly passed away. And it was really tough at the time because, and you can hear it in my voice still, that was one of the earliest, wow, that's an actual person on the other side right there. And I think that really helped solidify for me what is, I think, commonly passed around now as Will Wheaton's "don't be a dick." Where it's like, that's a real person there. They have real opinions and they're valid.
Yeah. So I think we should explain a little bit about who this person was first. But basically, he was very active in the news group. He was obviously a little bit younger than us, but very well-spoken, had insightful opinions, and I think was someone that a lot of us on the news group really connected to because he was able to share his opinions and engage in this sort of lively debate. And sort of one day he sort of stopped posting, and I don't remember exactly. There were a few people who sort of be getting impatient that he wasn't responding. And then one day we got this news. It was a shock because I think a lot of us sort of came to see him as a good friend, even though we'd never met him personally, obviously. But I mean, it's been 10 years, and by this point, friends that you've never met on the internet is very commonplace. At the time, it was still a relatively new thing, and it was almost uncommon to find that sort of deep connection through common interests to these random strangers on the internet. And I think when we all found out what had happened, we were, I don't know how to describe it really, sort of struck.
Yeah, it was a weird time. We're actually coming up on almost 11 years. I think it was October, very late September. But that was a point where Kanzenshuu EX was kind of in between. Julian, you and I relaunched the site January 2003. I don't want to say I took a year off, but I kind of did, which was really good. I mean, you're not an adult when you're in college. You just aren't.
Oh, I know that.
So, but I really wanted to not cover Jim's death. That's not right, but really make it a point to be like, he was important. And as I go back and look at some of Jim's posts, again, I was doing this morning, and it's bringing me down, but bringing me up. I saw a lot of, yes, that's what was said in the English dub. However, presented in a nice way and with authority. And I'd have to really dive back in, but if I remember correctly, he was getting really into Japanese. I think he was going to start taking the language, and he was interested in picking apart some of these differences. He would be Julian number 3. If you're Julian number 1 and Jake is Julian number 2, I think if Jim were around, he would be Julian number 3 right now.
It's very possible. And well, he started learning Japanese in earnest earlier than I did. So it's quite possible that by now he would be better. And I think that's one of the factors that motivated me to actually seriously study, just because I actually, looked to him for help early on in learning things like the kana. And we did have a few email exchanges along those lines. But it wasn't until after he passed that I really decided to buckle down and learn the language. So I suppose I have him to thank, to an extent, for being able to speak the language now, and certainly living in Japan, having a wife and kids.
That helps too.
Yeah.
So just in general, as we think back to our entire time there on alt.fan.dragonball, again, I think that really formed who we became as internet citizens in a way, our outlook on the series and our outlook on fandom. And again, it was still early. We were still kids, but I think I kept a lot of that stuff with me, and I reflect on that now and I go, how do I want to say this? Okay, there's probably a better way to say this,
Yes, exactly. Well, we were young. We were very forthright about our opinions, even when they were, from the current standpoint, very obviously wrong. And, it was a time where things from Japan were not as easily accessible. There were fewer of us who actually spoke the language. Even if you could speak the language, like I said, you need to know a guy in order to get a hold of some of this stuff.
Right.
eBay was young, and the stuff that was on it was not as broad-based as it is now. You couldn't order directly from Japanese suppliers because even if they had a net presence at all, they probably wouldn't ship outside Japan. And of course, import shops were terrible at being able to search.
We were relying on Wuken for news, Steve for the occasional translation of things. So it's like, hey, that's a guy who knows Japanese. He's got to be the source of information. And I remember talking with Greg. I don't know if I told this story. Maybe I did when we did one of our crossover episodes with One Piece podcast. But the first time I ever talked, and I put talked in quotes because it wasn't in person. I've still never met Greg in person. First time I ever talked to Greg online, I think was in a Yahoo chat room. I asked him to tell me what happens in the final episode of Dragon Ball GT. So that would have been early, probably 98 at that point. Greg would have been running his site for a year, and I probably saw that he got the tape. And I finally got my tape that year, too. It was very exciting. I do look fondly upon those earliest days of my being online. I really dislike... I say I dislike, but I don't want to say I've actively purged memories of, and I certainly didn't drink them away in college, but I do not remember those middle years, kind of pre-2003, like 2001 to 2003, I don't remember at all. In 2000 to 2003, I don't remember them.
From what I remember, you got fed up with naysayers and detractors and general fandom idiocy, took your ball and went home.
Yeah, so I was Phil Fish.
There were some hosting issues back there as well.
Well, there was that too, so...
But I guess you
all came together.
You felt like you were trying to provide something to the fandom and not being... I don't want to say not being given respect that you deserved, because...
there was no respect to be deserved.
No, yeah. I don't want to say that you were entitled, but you obviously felt like you weren't getting anything out of doing it at the time, because people either wanted more all the time or just didn't care.
I think it was definitely more personal, is that I was not finding any value in doing it anymore. And maybe at the time I blamed it on others, but I think it was all personal and internal at that point. And I think I needed a break, and getting in touch with you really, really helped. So thank you, Julian. Yeah. If I've never said that before, you really helped me, and I appreciate that, man.
Well, I was a few years younger. I had a lot of drive.
You did.
that you were, I think,
and I saw that in you. I was like, oh, that kid wants to do stuff. I need him.
It was a fun time and pretty chaotic. Somewhere in the middle of things, I got fed up with the censorship in the Viz version of the manga, which they'd previously said they would never do. And I wrote letters and I started a petition, and I got it uncensored for a few years.
Yeah. So you kind of pull it back around again. I really, really look fondly on 1997 to kind of early 1999. Season 3 through Going Home with My Ball. I don't really remember. It was probably pretty sucky. And then these last 10 years I've loved. So
yes.
And again, I really think what we have now was formed from late 97 to early 99. And I want to thank and really send my appreciation to Jim, to Steve, to Rachel, maybe not to Joe at the time, but he came around. To all those folks, you made a difference in my life, and I appreciate that. And I think we're all here today together because of that. And I know Jim would be hanging out and shaking his head at some of these Dragon Ball Heroes things as well, I think.
Yes.
So, Julian, I don't know. How do you want to wrap this up? It was a good time. Glad to be here today.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. We were both on AOL, and we hadn't yet discovered more efficient ways of getting into the internet, I suppose you could say. We were both early into the fandom, and I think it really helped shape both of us in terms of just Dragon Ball in general meant to both of us.
Yeah.
And I think in that respect, it's really responsible for Kanzenshuu now. And it's really funny to think about because looking back on it now, we neither of us knew anything about the series.
No.
People were having these spirited debates and kind of hitting on the actual truth some of the time, but
accidentally. Right.
It was mostly the blind leading the blind. None of totally us spoke Japanese except for Daimao, and it was fun times. But yeah, I look back on it fondly and with a good deal of nostalgia, in spite of the low points as well.
So thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you all, and and those of you who are on Kanzenshuu now.
Who are now 16.
Sticking with us, yes. And yes, those who are on Kanzenshuu now and who are 16 and starting a lot of topics at once. Think about moving things together into a single topic so that they can be more easily discussed. And
we're old. Ain't nobody got time for that. Stop.
Oh, well, we just have to remember that those fans, too, will eventually become older and either embittered or at least more mature.
That's the thing. I think people think two things of me at the same time. They're like, you're either too hard on people or you're giving them too many chances. Why aren't you being more hard on them? And I'm like, well, alt.fan.dragonball. That's why. That's my answer to everything. Because yes, people need moderation, but you know what? We were all little kids once. And yes, 16 is a little kid. And I'm only 31 now, but I know in a couple of years, we'll be like, oh, I thought I knew so much at 31. Just give it another couple of years. You'll always reflect more.
Yes. I don't remember how long ago it was. I must have been still in high school or even younger. Just somebody told me, no matter how old you are, when you get older, you realize how stupid you were then.
Yep.
And it always holds true.
Yep. Absolutely.
Always. So that might sound like an insult if you are our age back then, but no.
It's true. It's true.
You will find that it is true in due time, so don't panic.
Just as an example.
Don't feel insulted.
Just as an example of that, when I was porting over every single individual news entry from Daizenshuu EX and Kanzentai, and before that, Vegito EX's homepage, every year of news posts, I could see this gradual but distinct change in writing style, in tone, and professionalism. And I still see that today in posts from even like 3 years ago. So, yep, it's there.
Yes.
Julian, let's wrap it up. It's sad that some of the stuff that happened, but I'm glad to be able to reflect on it, especially with you now. It was a good time. It formed Kanzenshuu as an entity now, I really think. And here we are. Kanzenshu's been going for over a year. Vegito EX's homepage dates back to January 1998. I have no intentions of stopping, and I will continue to use all of this experience as my basis going forward. So thanks, everyone. You want to wrap it up?
Thank you for this very nostalgic entry into
Daizenshuu EX. So, Julian, to get yourself on the right track, tell the kids, where can they find Kanzenshuu? Because that's what we are now.
Yes. You can find us on the internet at http://vegex.sreanime.net. That's vegex@.sreanime.net. No, wait.
There was no www. Did you say that? I can't remember.
No, okay. I didn't.
Okay.
No, actually, that's probably over 10 years ago and a dead link. You can actually find us at Kanzenshuu, which is www.kanzenshuu vegiex.sreanime.com.
Sorry, we could not find vegiex.sreanime.net.
Oh, that's sad.
It was going to a porn site for a while.
Oh, try pokeball.net.
Okay. I think that goes to a porn site now. I'm on my work laptop, so this is dangerous.
Maybe you shouldn't.
No, the domain may be for sale.
Oh, okay.
All right, Julian, thank you, man. My name is Mike. For Julian across from me, for Heath, and for Jake, and for Mary. We appreciate all of you. We look forward to spending more time with you. Julian, wrap up the show as a whole, please, sir.
Yes. Thank you for listening to this very nostalgia-filled entry into Kanzenshuu, the podcast. Not Daizenshuu EX, not alt.fan.dragonball, not the ultimate DBZ information site, and not Sushinshu. But they are our spiritual forebears, and we are very grateful to all of them. I guess Daizenshuu EX would be ourselves, but anyway. Anyhow, yes, please check us next time.